What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 2 top 40 wide receiver rankings, splitting these guys up into different tiers. If you enjoy the video, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Any comments, questions, feel free to drop them down below. But let's just dive right into the rankings here. I'm not going to go super in depth on these early guys. Even if they had rough week ones, they're your studs for a reason. They're going to be locked into your lineup. So in tier 1, I have Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua. Jamar Chase, obviously pretty underwhelming week 1. I'm not concerned. He was the 101 for a reason. If you're freaking out, after one bad week, you didn't deserve to draft Jamar Chase in the first place. CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, strong week 1s. Honestly, both could have had bigger games. CeeDee Lamb with the drops, and then Puka Nacua just being in and out of the lineup, going through concussion protocol. Then tier 2, also guys that should be locks in your lineup. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, and Drake London. For Amon-Ra, underwhelming game. I think this is a good bounce back spot. The Lions have the second highest implied point total this week, going up against the Bears. For Justin Jefferson, I think there's minor concern, at least early on in the season with J.J. McCarthy. With where Jefferson was being drafted, there wasn't a ton of concern, at least, baked into his ADP on the quarterback situation and whether or not, this was going to be a much worse passing attack. McCarthy looked great in the fourth quarter. First 3, not so much. So I think you temper your expectations a little bit early on in the season, but he's still someone who's going to be locked in your lineup. Malik Neighbors, fine week 1. Nico Collins, really disappointing week 1, but he was a round 1 pick, at worst early round 2 for a reason. BTJ, same thing. The volume was fine, just didn't connect with Trevor Lawrence. I do think this game, has some high scoring potential. Ladd McConkey, solid week 1. Love the fact that the Chargers, might be a higher volume passing attack team this season. And then Drake London commanded a ton of volume in week 1, is dealing with the shoulder injury, but it seems like he's trending towards playing. If he's, active for the game, he is going to be a lock in my lineup. Then looking at tier 3, we have T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith-Njigba, Garrett Wilson, and Mike Evans. T. Higgins, along with the rest of the Bengals offense, not a great week 1. Think this is a prime bounce back opportunity against this Jaguars defense. A.J. Brown, pretty rough week 1, 1 target, 1 reception for 8 yards. I'm not full-blown panicking here, but this has always kind of been the issue with A.J. Brown in this Eagles offense. From a talent perspective, in a different situation, A.J. Brown could be competing for wide receiver 1 overall, but he is on an offense that is going to live through its run game with Saquon Barkley, with a mobile quarterback, and he's just never going to have the highest upside from a season-long perspective, and he's also never going to have a super strong weekly floor. It kind of just comes with the territory. You're drafting a super talented player, but some of these kind of low floor games are always possible with this Eagles passing attack. Then for Marvin Harrison Jr., really strong week 1, 5 for 71 and a touchdown. Cardinals are going to put up points in this matchup, tied for the 6th highest implied point total. Then we have Jackson Smith-Njigba going up against the Steelers. He had a monster week 1, despite the Seahawks, not being super productive through the air. 13 targets, 9 receptions for 124 yards. He accounted for 124 of the 150 passing yards. That is just insane. I do think there's some, potential concern where it's he's obviously not going to have that large of a share of the offense every single week. And if this, passing attack continues to look rough, that's obviously going to cap his upside. But he's clearly going to be the focal point, for this wide receiver room, for their weapons. He is a high-end wide receiver too for me. Then I have Garrett Wilson. I think if you drafted Garrett Wilson, you have to be pretty elated with what you saw in week 1. The concern with Wilson was just what kind of quarterback play he was going to be getting from Justin Fields. And Justin Fields looked fantastic. It led to a very strong Garrett Wilson game. The Jets are 6.5-point dogs in this matchup, so probably a pass-heavy game script. Garrett Wilson, really nice option this week. And then I have Mike Evans, fine week 1, nothing crazy. The Bucs are 2.5-point dogs to the Texans. Could be somewhat of a pass-heavy game script. He is going to close out tier 3. Now moving into a pretty large tier 4, going to start off with Zay Flowers, who had a monster week 1, 7 receptions for 143 yards and a touchdown, 2 carries for 8 yards. He had an 100% route participation. He had a 50% target rate. And we did see last year, Zay Flowers was fairly boom or bust. I think what has me buying in this year is just first off, he's a young player. He can be taking that year 3 jump, but it's also just the fact that They clearly wanted to get him very involved. They're even mixing him in on the ground. The fact that they had the urgency to really get him going, I think is a great sign moving forward. The Ravens have the highest implied point total this week. It could be a run-heavy game script, but he's still going to have touchdown upside within this offense. Then I have Hollywood Brown, and this does seem high. I mean, I have him ranked ahead of guys like Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, guys who are like round 2, 3 picks in a redraft this year. But the situation has just really opened up for Hollywood Brown here, where you have Rashee Rice suspended. I'm assuming that Xavier Worthy is not going to play this week. When he went down with that shoulder injury, I have him on a decent amount of my redraft teams. I thought I was just cooked. I thought he'd be out for a very long time. He's not going on IR. Seems like he could be back, within the next few weeks, but I'm not anticipating him to play here in week 2. And if he doesn't play, we saw Hollywood Brown last week, 98% route participation, 14 targets, 10 receptions for 99 yards. The Chiefs can get, pretty much any wide receiver they want, these easy, like gimme schemed up touches. If those are going to Hollywood Brown, I think he's a really strong wide receiver to play. Then I have Devontae Adams, nothing crazy week 1, still in on him this season. Tyreek Hill, this Dolphins offense really sucked. I do think maybe people are like full-blown panicking a little bit too much. I still think Tyreek Hill's playable. It was a terrible week 1, but it's not like every game they're going to be that bad. Also, from like a season-long perspective, I also think he's very likely to be traded potentially to a better situation like the Chiefs, which would obviously be amazing for his fantasy value. So still playable to me as like a mid-tier wide receiver 2. Then I have Tedero McMillan, really solid debut, 8 targets, 5 receptions for 68 yards. He just needs Bryce Young to give you a little bit more at the quarterback position for him to hit his true upside. Then Emeka Egbuka, another rookie with a very strong debut. He led the Bucs wide receivers in snaps and routes, was targeted 6 times, caught 4 of them for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't want to get, over my skis here because like from a fantasy production standpoint, it was an amazing game. The 2 touchdowns obviously really boosted his numbers. It's not like the volume was crazy, right? Like 4 for 67 if you don't get into the end zone is still a very solid debut. But I think some people are getting like way up there, which is funny because like I've always been super high on Emeka Egbuka. I still really like him. I just think we have to, temper our expectations a little bit, but I still have him ranked here as my wide receiver 22. Then I have Cortland Sutton, really strong debut. Always going to be in like this fringe wide receiver 2 territory. Jacoby Myers just continues to have a very high weekly floor. He's going to command volume. I like the fit with Geno. Someone who, could definitely end up being underdrafted, especially when he dipped after the trade request. And then the last guy in this tier is DK Metcalf. Fine debut. Aaron Rodgers is going to feed his wide receiver 1, and the Steelers' passing attack did look a lot better than I think anticipated in week 1. Then moving into tier 5, we have George Pickens, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Devonta Smith, and Keon Coleman. George Pickens, not a ton going on in week 1. Tough matchup, better situation here against the Giants. Then I have these Commanders wide receivers back-to-back, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel. I was not super in on Deebo. Also, honestly, wasn't super high on Terry relative to his ADP, but I did think Terry was going to be the clear-cut number 1. In week 1, we saw Deebo really eat here. 10 targets, 7 receptions for 77 yards, also had a 19-yard touchdown run compared to Terry McLaurin's 4 targets, 2 receptions, 27 yards. Now, I'm not taking a 1-game sample size and saying, Terry's done, Deebo's going to be the clear-cut wide receiver 1, but I do think the gap has kind of closed here. And for Terry, the reason why I haven't been super in on him is I just haven't seen the upside. Where last year he was the clear-cut wide receiver 1, Jaden Daniels played super well, Terry hit in the touchdown department, and he still couldn't be a fantasy wide receiver 1 in points per game. And now you add someone like Deebo who, can command a decent amount of volume, is going to be involved. I think these guys are pretty close together moving forward. Then I have Devonta Smith, not a great week 1, pretty much the same spiel I gave about A.J. Brown with like this being a run-heavy offense. There's going to be these down games where they're not throwing the ball a ton. He's still playable, and at the end of the season, he'll probably still end up being a wide receiver 2 in points per game. And then the last guy in this tier, Keon Coleman, potentially the biggest riser, actually probably second behind Hollywood Brown, but he had a monster week 1, 94% route participation, 11 targets, 8 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown. The rookie season was up and down, but he was getting a lot of steam throughout training camp. A lot of the beat reporters, teammates were speaking very highly of him. He went out, had a super strong week 1. We'll see if he can keep that going here in week 2. And then tier 6, a pretty large tier. We have Ricky Pearsall, Travis Hunter, Jamison Williams, Chris Olave, Jerry Jeudy, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Stephon Diggs, and Khalil Shakir. It's really tough to rank Pearsall this week because you've got the injury to George Kittle. He's going to be gone. Juwan Jennings is banged up. And when you hear those injuries around him, you're thinking, all right, he's going to command a lot of volume. He's going to be a really strong play. But now we have Brock Purdy, who apparently is a long shot to play in week 2. And so this offense could just end up being really gross. If Purdy does play, I would rank Pearsall like way higher, probably in like the tier 4 range, just because I think like who else is going to catch passes on this team. But with like, Mac Jones coming in, missing some of these other weapons, I just feel like this offense really could kind of collapse under itself. So a little bit weary of playing Ricky Pearsall. Also, he just hasn't been like the biggest target earner, so I don't necessarily want to bank on that. He's kind of, living through big plays, efficiency. So right now he is going to be leading tier 6. Then I have Travis Hunter going up against the Bengals. Fine week 1. The usage was strong, like a full-time offensive player, working in the slot, commanded 8 targets, 6 receptions for 33 yards. I do believe Liam Cohen said he'd be getting in a little bit more on defense. I don't think that automatically means he's going to get less on offense. We'll just have to wait and see. I think like mid to back end wide receiver 3 is a fair spot. Then I have Jamison Williams, pretty volatile week to week. Not a great week 1, but the Lions are probably going to put up points in this matchup. Fine wide receiver 3 play. Chris Olave, someone who I did like coming into the season. Great volume in week 1, 13 targets, 7 receptions for 54 yards. He commanded 13 targets, and that was with him taking like 2 or 3 trips to the Blue Medical tent. I've got like the notifications on my phone, and I swear I got that like Chris Olave is going to the medical tent, he's back, and then he's going to the medical tent again, he's back on the field. And every time with the concussions, you get scared, but seems like he's good to go. Strong usage week 1. I like him as my wide receiver 34. Then I have Jerry Jeudy. These guys are kind of in similar situations where it's like bad passing attacks, but you're just betting on the talented player. The Browns are 11.5-point underdogs in this matchup, so probably going to be another pass-heavy game script. Then I have the Bears wide receivers, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore. I do think this could be a bounce-back opportunity for Caleb Williams and this entire Bears offense. Rome Odunze commanded 8 targets, caught 6 of them for 38 yards and a touchdown. DJ Moore, 5 targets, 3 carries, 3 receptions for 70 yards, and then 8 yards on the ground. So I think the jury's still out on who like the true wide receiver 1 is here. As a Bears fan, I'd obviously like to see a big week 2, but I'm not fully bought into this offense yet. I think potentially both of these guys, could be more and more playable or just like stronger options as the season progresses. Then I have Michael Pittman, a big winner from week 1. First off, you have Josh Downs, like barely cracking a 50% route participation, which means from a fantasy perspective and just like a target earning perspective, he's kind of out of the picture at this point. And then for Michael Pittman, 8 targets, 6 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown. This is a tough matchup here against the Broncos, but it's good to see Michael Pittman back, putting together some solid games. Then I have Stephon Diggs. The usage wasn't great, only a 70% route participation. It'll be interesting to see if that sticks or if that's kind of just like his role within this offense. I imagine there's some sort of like easing him back, so if that rose a little bit, that wouldn't be surprising to me. But he still commanded 7 targets, 6 receptions for 57 yards. And then the final guy in this tier, Khalil Shakir, no weekly upside, but just super consistent. He's going to get his, 6 receptions for 50 yards, and in PPR formats, he's going to be playable pretty much every single week. And so that is going to wrap it up for my top 40 wide receivers. If you guys enjoyed the video, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Stay tuned for the running backs. Those will also be coming out today. Thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.